Yes, my presentation will be focused mainly on late Paleolithic of Southern Arabia, but I will try to put it in a kind of broader context and okay.
Okay.
No, it's but
you just need to like click on the and now try to
okay. So to start from complete beginning, why we should be interested in Arabia in the first place as researchers or people from Central Europe. And also when we think from our Central European perspective about the Arabia right now, as we see, and we all know our stereotypes are maybe looks like this. It's completely dry land with camels and dunes, which we all know it's not completely true, right? It's first, not only that there are some traces in the landscape of presence of water from the past, large wadi terraces or current still sometimes active wadis, but also during the year when there is more moisture or when the monsoons or cyclones are a bit more active, or in some areas where is still some groundwater, you have oases, or even with a little bit of, or in the areas with still a little bit higher precipitation, you have grasslands and forest, and anytime you got a little bit more moisture in the landscape, you can see that it gets still kind of green. And in some areas of Arabia, it can go even to this extreme of cloud forest, like in Dhofar mountains. And also, when you walk through, in the landscape, you see traces of of past human activities and occupation, starting from stone tools through tombs related to Bronze Age, Iron Age, or Neolithic, giant shell middens, or triliths, or any other structures. So, for us as humans, the archaeology of Arabia and past population dynamics of this region are important for many reasons. First, we are all coming from Africa. Arabia is lying exactly between the Asia and Africa, and we in some point had to cross it. In which direction and how many times and in which period, it's a complicated story which is still under the discussion, but also for the later periods. We as Europeans are always focused on Neolithization, for instance, as it's coming from Levant and from Mesopotamia, and how it's spreading into our region. The story of the southern Arabia and the more distant regions, the southern regions from Levant, is maybe less explored, but can be also interesting for us from a perspective of comparative anthropology and archaeology as human adaptation for, let's say, not remote places, but or I don't want to say remote places or peripheries, but areas which are not really good for farming in a traditional way, as we have in Scandinavia or this or more or peripheries of Neolithic Neolithization in Europe. In the Palaeolithic research and Neolithic research of Pleistocene and Holocene archaeology of specifically Southern Arabia and Arabia in general, we still have many gaps and problems in the chronology, both in chronology and also in the distribution of the sites in the entire region. There are many of them, all these gaps in our chronology and also in our environmental record. For my focus are important this one, the hyperarid, or we believe still it's arid LGM, and also it was this gap between late Paleolithic and Neolithic, which was not that much my problem, but mainly Pia's problem. But it was still somehow part of my PhD. And as I mentioned, Pia and Roman, I'm only a small part of a larger team, and not only one team, but I had the chance to be also with the Australian expedition, and also in the expedition led by your institute. And obviously, we are working in Oman, in Southeastern Arabia, which will be the most discussed region in this talk. But it doesn't mean that we are not aware of importance of other regions. We know that there is a lot of going on in Yemen, but unfortunately, Yemen is not accessible right now, and the history of research was always a bit more complicated. But also other countries of the Gulf or Saudi, they still have a big potential for archaeology, which is we are taking in account, but it's not going to be that discussed here. From the geological and paleoenvironmental point of view, I will start here. Completely from the beginning, the Arabian Peninsula split from Africa about 25 million years ago. And since that time, it experienced more or less its own development, but still attached environmentally and ecologically to both continents, Asia and Africa. And during the Pleistocene period, as the rest of the world, it experienced the fluctuation of its environmental settings and environment. So when we got basically and the simplest way how it was said before, that when we have ice age here, then there are interpluvials in Arabia, and when we have interglacials in Europe, then we should have or interglacials globally, then we should have pluvials in Arabia, the wetter season. Now we are in the interglacial, and Arabia is dry, so it's not that simple as it can sound. It depends on many other factors. The important thing is that that region experience wetter and drier periods. Also during the ice age, there is a decrease of water level because everything is trapped in ice sheets in glaciers. So there were periods when also the Gulf was empty, when the Bab was closer to Africa. But also we have regions where the coast didn't change too much, where we have also still some geological uplift, which is keeping the sites which are supposed to be submerged today still above the sea level, and also the very steep coastline along the southern Arabia. One of the main factors in the affecting the hostility and the aridity in the regions are the intertropical coverage zone, which is shifting in different periods depending on low pressure from the north, which allows or push the monsoons from the Indian Oceans further inland or vice versa. And also for the paleoenvironmental settings of the wetter periods, what can help us to reconstruct the environment, how it looks like. On one hand, these are the endemic species or species which are still around, from gazelles to hyenas, but we have also many we have evidence from rock art from different parts of Arabia about the already extinct fauna, and in some cases from scarce paleontological sites, northern Arabia or Yemen, where we have evidence of water buffalo, donkeys, gazelles, hippos, and also ostrich shells, which are found in the desert, but we know that the ostrich get extinct only recently in historical period. So if we want to imagine the wetter period in Arabia, maybe we should not imagine it as a completely green paradise and jungle, but rather as some savanna or semi-arid landscape, which was not that bad as it is today. The similar applies also for flora, when we can study it first from the refugias and also from very scarce but still existing environmental records, phytoliths, etc. Now back to the archaeology and to human occupation. To explain why we have so many gaps in our record. First, it's a very short history of archaeological and specifically Paleolithic research in the region. And second, it's geology working against us. These 3 slides are, I took them from a presentation which I have for students. You probably most likely all know it, and you all know these people. It's just to show the contrast between history of research in Levant and Mesopotamia against Arabia. So in Levant and Mesopotamia, you have since 19th century all all the adventurers and diplomats and historians and first archaeologists working and looking for biblical sites. Then developing in early 20th and 20th century with really extensive research for Palaeolithic, not starting, but with all the work done by Dorothy Garrod and offered by Joseph, and also for Neolithic. You know all these famous names, and there are many others which would be angry that I didn't included them. For the Southern Arabia, it's getting the amount of researchers and also the intensity of the work is dramatically, is visibly lower. We know that Europeans European interest in Southern Arabia started already in 18th century with the expedition, with the Danish expedition who explored that region. In 19th century or late 19th century, there were first researchers who were interested in these Southern Arabian kingdoms, collecting the imprints of Southern Arabian inscriptions. But first real excavations in Yemen and also in Southern Oman started only in 20s. For the Palaeolithic, probably the first archaeologist who was interested in that region already in connection with Africa and with comparison of Southern Arabia with Africa was Gertrude Catton Thompson, and she was working there until 50s. And since that time, there was again a big gap until 90s. And for the rest of Arabia, again, this was a slide for the students. So there is Alois Musil mentioned, and also the more adventurers than archaeologists. But I left the slide here mainly because of Oman and this corner of the peninsula, just to show that this part was the archaeological interest started maybe about 70s, and it was led mainly by my Italian teams. So Maurizio Tossi, his photo is here to represent all the Italians here, and it was the region was under their interest mainly because of the as a land of Magan between Mesopotamia and India, with a lot of copper trade in the Bronze Age and Iron Age, and also for the Neolithic. Vitaly Usik, who is working in Oman since the beginning of intensive Paleolithic research in here, is always saying a story of when he and Jeff Rose met Tossi for the first time, and Tossi told them he asked them, "What are you doing here? There is no Paleolithic in Oman." Nevertheless, the Paleolithic, the interest of politicians for that region not started, but was reborn after after genetical studies about the human dispersals, and claiming that there had to be rapid dispersal route out of Africa, likely following the coastline, because from their point of view, the coastline was the stable environment which they could follow. Here we have one of the studies, but there was many of them. So Jeff Rose and together with Vitaly and Hilbert Diamandu and many other people, they decided to test it. So they were exploring all the caves in Dhofar, which I mentioned. There is uplift and the caves are supposed to not be submerged. They were exploring, surveying, and excavating many of them. This is video from 2008, I think, and they basically didn't found nothing. So they shifted to the inland, where there are many archaeological sites which were, and it was known as there is a presence of very high quality raw materials. And at the same time, about 2007, 2008, another archaeological mission from Switzerland led by Reto Jäger was doing similar surveys in central Oman, looking for Palaeolithic. And all of these missions were founding archaeological sites. Young, old, but everything on the surface. Among these, which is another thing working against us, the low sedimentation and deflation of the surfaces in these desert environments. This is one of the studies by Jeff and also us trying to solve how to play with all these artifacts. Even when it's on the surface, you can tell by the taxonomy what can be older, what can be younger. It's unfortunately not that sensitive. So you can see that you have really old lower Paleolithic handexes, level cores, much younger blades. But when you think about the more sensitive chronology, you see that the taxonomy and patina on one artifact, when it was broken, the surface which is supposed to be of the same age can be very variable. So it's okay in a long for a long periods and for a big picture to know that we have lower Paleolithic, middle Paleolithic, and late upper Paleolithic stuff, but it's difficult to play with more sensitive chronology. What they found, fortunately, what they were finding was not only on the surface. There are few stratified sites, and by founding the Nubian cores, which is a tradition already known from Africa, it was one of the largest achievements to show that there were some migration waves going probably by the southern road, but according to these evidence, not along the coast. Then we know that Homo sapiens was there since MIS 5, thanks to these dated sites. But the question, mainly for me, for a guy who is interested in late Paleolithic, is how are these the same people? Did they survive through the last ice age? And if not, how many other waves this region experienced? From a genetic perspective, we know that at least since the last ice age, there should be continuous population. This was the first large archaeological proof for this was excavation at Mutahafa, which is until now still the only dated upper Paleolithic site in Oman, dated to 30,000. still in Oman, it's first date after these Nubian sites. There are some other sites in UAE, in Jebel Faya, and newly also from Buhais. So there should be some continuity, maybe, since that period, but it's still under the question. But for the LGM, we have still no sites present. This is the new paper from about Buhais. So after the LGM, this new evidence, the late or final Paleolithic, depends what we want to call it, because it's most of the dates we have now are from the Holocene. So there is preference by some archaeologists to call it late Paleolithic, but somehow expect that very similar tradition should comes also from the really end of Pleistocene. So how does it look like, and what's the story of the late Paleolithic? It's basically a very simple technology, which is represented by blade production and maybe occasionally also some by fell sheet production. It's present almost all around these regions on surface sites with giant blade production workshops and by target points, which are called Fasad after area called of Ramla Fasad when they were first time found by scouts. But we know them also from UAE, where they call them fire points, and similar things we can find also in Hadramaut with Washa points, which are not tanked, but the technology behind is the same, and the date is expected to be also very similar. Originally, there were ideas that these types of points originate from Levant, that they are similar to the Pre-Pluterian Neolithic finds. They are dated to the approximately same period, so really the beginning of a Holocene. But the production of the blank production is completely different, and we know it from Arabia, from Qatar, where it's called Qatar B Group, and it stops just before the Rub al-Khali. So the current view is that technological tradition has to be indigenous in the region. From the subsistence point of view, we have no evidence for any agriculture, even when in Levant we already have Pre-Pluterian Neolithic and cultivation and all these things going on. Here it's missing, but from Native Cave and now also from our site in Wadi Sai, we know that except hunting and gathering, which they had to do, they were also fishermen. And from the Native Caves, it's these are presented as currently the earliest known marine, the earliest known fishermen in Arabia, and the earliest known population which is ecologically somehow dependent on the coastal resources, but still going inland and hunting, gathering, and This is just from the native cave, small facade points, and of course a lot of fish bones. For my PhD, I focused on two regions in the central Oman and in Dhofar, where thanks to Jeff and Hilbert Yamandu and Vitali and the AP team, who gathered a lot of data from the southern Oman and excavated also the first late Paleolithic sites in the region. We knew that these blade production workshops belongs mainly to this period. For the central Oman, for Hukuf, surveyed by the Swiss team, by Reto, we only expected that. We knew that the technology is similar, but since the technology is in its nature very simple, we couldn't tell that it's just convergent evolution, technological evolution in another region in different period. So my focus was to compare these two regions, the technology of these two regions, and also to try found something datable in central Oman. This was just for the methodology. The good thing about these surface scatterers is that they are quite well preserved, meaning that where they left, if the surface was stable, where they were knapping, it stayed at the same place, and you can refit almost everything, and you see that there is nothing missing, or that there is. You are sure that you collected and refitted everything. So then you can play with the question: what was brought away from these surface workshops, and also estimate the function of these places, also based on presence, absence of tools. And also parallel to the surveying these lithic scatterers on the surface with PIA, we excavated the small rock shelter in Wadi Sai, which was originally supposed to be Neolithic, but luckily for us, it appeared that the stratigraphy is much more complicated and older, covering everything from middle Neolithic to the really end of late or final Paleolithic, meaning that we finally got also the early, which was one of the question marks in my slide about the problems. How to connect it with these surface workshops? We know that they, as I told you, we have almost everything from the surface, and we see that what is missing are mainly the pointed blanks from the middle, which is exactly what they were using for these facet points. And if you look at the numbers, you see that the pointed blanks are missing in the workshops, but we have disproportional amount of them on the residential places like this rock shelter in Wadi Sai. And also, if you look at the experimental work, there is again disproportion. And so this is how it looks like, and the numbers from the workshops and from the camp are exactly the opposite. So even when we don't have direct refittings, which would be very rare and very lucky, and I think nobody would believe us if we do it. But then we, I think, can be quite sure that we have the same, that these things have approximately the same age. So to cover at least one of the problems I explained at the beginning, we have not only the late Paleolithic Fasad points somehow surviving from LGM. We still don't know how, and where, but they are probably coming from somewhere from the region. We finally have some connection with the Neolithic tradition, which until now was seen as something really different. As you see that there are these very simple Fasad points, tangent points made on blades, produced in a very raw and not skilled way. And on the other side, you have nice projectile points with pressure flaking, where you have to gather a lot of experience and knowledge how to produce them. And then there is a gap and nothing. And you can't just technologically jump from one to the other, or at least not from this one to this one, vice versa maybe. But on the in our case, we found kind of transitional projectile points and types where they were basically learning how to make nice bifacial tongue by pressure flaking, and only then going through the complete façonnage. So this is fine. Is it the end of the entire problem? Not at all. The first question here can be, so what does it mean, Neolithic, in our case? Because I'm talking about the projectile points, but we know that it's mainly about the subsistence and complete change of economy, and also symbolic meanings, and it has many attributes. But in our case, we simply don't know when exactly they changed their subsistence strategies, when exactly they started with herding, and there are still many uncertainties and gaps in research to explain from where and how the domestics were introduced in Arabia. In our case, it's based, as we agreed on PIA, mainly with PIA, that is based mainly on the original definition of Neolithics, new lithics, with introduction of new technology, new knowledge to produce stone tools. But we are not able to say that they started herding here or here, not now. The reason why is that the fossil record or the osteological record from the region is scarce, and that the osteological remains don't really survive in that environment. They were more lucky in Yemen with these large cultic areas with bovies. But until now, there is one site in Oman dated to late 5th millennium with cows, which is already too late for us, and one in UAE. For the Neolithic, well, this is actually advertiser for a new and better talk, because I'm not a specialist on this, so we should maybe talk with Pia. But the Neolithic, especially in this later stage, is represented or was represented mainly by the coastal adaptation and the shift to the coastal to the coast. But thanks to Piaf and their work, we know that it was still a lot of going on also inland, and there are still many questions how these two regions communicated. And for the UP, we still don't know. I told you and I showed you that there was one really recent paper showing maybe some continuity in UAA, in Buhais, which may be partly the answer, that the region along the Hajar Mountains and around the Gulf was maybe less hostile for the humans during the LGM, but the question remains somehow unanswered. This is acknowledgement, and I thank you for the attention. If you have questions.